Right, I'm apparently live right now. Before it's 4 o'clock though, I want to make sure everything is working, so hopefully people can hear me. And let's see, I'll just make some sounds for a couple minutes here until it's 4 o'clock. Oh, and knock over my camera. Yeah, there we go. All right. All right, that seems to work. And hopefully someone can hear me. All right, Composer JK says it's going on. That looks like Jeff. Shout out to Jeff, fellow Bay Area. Good to see you here. And we have 1 minute. All right, let's try that bitwig delay I got going on here on the Buchla. All right, it's 4 o'clock, and welcome everybody. Here we are. I am Peter Nybor. I'm with Sensel, and today in today's live stream, I've got too many things on my desk here. Really, I'm going to be focusing on the Buchla Music Easel. Here, let me get my roving camera. The Buchla Music Easel and the ASM Hydrasynth, and how I work with these using the Sensel Morph. So I've got a couple morphs here, and we've got different situations and how we're using the morph. Different synthesizers. We've got, like, in this corner, we've got the KG Vet with the Buchla Music Easel with all analog signal path. It's monophonic, and it has a very, irascible sound, and it is from one of the brainchilds of Don Buchla. And then here we have the young upstart, the kid with skills, the ASM Hydrasynth. And this is polyphonic, and it's digital, and it is basically a computer inside. So let's take a look at some of the different things we can do with the Sensel Morph and with the Buchla Thunder overlay, or the Buchla Thunder overlay, and the Music Easel. All right, cool. Glad I'm getting the sound. That's always the thing with these live streams. I'm always kind of nervous, like, is the sound working? Because I've had that totally fail on me before. All right, cool. So this is where I wish I was in a classroom for one reason, so I could ask, who here is familiar with the Music Easel? Well, if you are, tell me I'm wrong when I say something. So the Music Easel was created in the late 60s, is sort of a combination of Don Buchla and Morton Subotnick. They were sort of forming different ideas about how to make music, and that sort of, I think that started with the 100 system, which was modular, and then eventually Don came up with the Music Easel, which was really kind of like a suitcase-sized music instrument as a way for an electronic musician to have a full palette of sounds and really kind of be able to manipulate them from the quietest to the loudest, from the most pristine to the noisiest. And it really was kind of revolutionary because it kind of gave everything to an electronic musician that, say, something like a saxophonist would have. You just didn't have that much of a burden to bring to your gig. So unlike what's called East Coast synthesis or subtractive synthesis, the Music Easel relies on wave shaping. So it really kind of generates timbres in different ways. This is the new Easel command. So what's cool about this is it kind of gets rid of the control surface at the bottom that the easel always had, gets rid of the case, and kind of makes it a little bit more modern because it engages, let's see, I'll take my roving camera back here, maybe you can see it. I have the optional USB host here, so I can plug my morph directly in. There's MIDI input for 5-pin DIN. There's also USB MIDI for connecting to a computer. And then, of course, as many of you people are probably working in Eurorack Modular, there's also 1 volt per octave inputs. So you can integrate this with your modular. Now, with the morph, it requires a little bit of setup, and I can kind of share my screen just to get through that. So it doesn't work with the Thunder overlay here. So why do I have tape on there? Well, I'll explain that some other time. The Thunder overlay is just a piece of rubber. The morph is a highly sensitive pressure surface, and we can put different overlays on it. We worked with Buchla to bring one of Don's older ideas, the Buchla Thunder from 1989, and give people that interface that they could start to experiment with music in all sorts of different formats, whether they wanted to play piano that way or if they wanted to get really far out with synthesis. It has pressure and pitch bend, and it also has a timbral control on the Y. So when you set this up, really all you need to do is flash a map. And let's go ahead and take a look at what that looks like real quick, just so you aren't too intimidated by that. I'll go to the desktop and we'll enter the vortex here. And let's look at something a little bit nicer there. I will open the Sensel app. And really all you do is you go to our website, download the map, and then you import the map. And then you select the Buchla Thunder overlay here, and then you send the map to the morph. So what each key is doing is it's sending a MIDI note, and then X on pitch bend, and Y is CC1, which is mod wheel. And the Buchla is is already pre-configured to respond to those things. So once you've done that, you can just slap on your, quit that out, slap this on, plug it into the Buchla Music Easel, and start playing. Now, the way things are mapped here is that the Y values on these are essentially controlling the timbre value here. So this timbre slider here is kind of key to wave shaping. If we don't have that, we can just listen to it, listen to the oscillator as I bring that through. And you can change the wave shapes, of course. So that's what we're doing when we press this. And then, of course, we can do. Oh wait, I need to switch my camera. Sorry about that. You can't see anything. Let me go to my multi-view here again. All right. So I was explaining the timbre slider here. When that's up, we're morphing through, and that's what we're doing here. So you already have a lot of sound variety just by being able to play. on different positions on these different pads. And we can also have this as a really low note. And so you can also hear that we have some modulation. So the modulation oscillator is here in the green. And so you can set a frequency, a wave shape with these toggles. And you can have it track the keyboard or not. Right now it's just fixed. I'm not tracking the notes as I play them, because I want the low notes and everything to have the sort of same rhythm with that. And this patch here, what I'm doing is I have the sequential voltage. So these are kind of like voltage presets that you can step through or sequence. And of course, because it's Buchla, you have a maximum of 5 because you want to keep things interesting. You always want that opportunity to do 3, 4, or 5 steps in your sequence. And then you just patch the blue into the modulation patch here, and then how much you want that voltage to actually affect the frequency of the modulation oscillator. So I'll go ahead and put this camera down, and we can try some things out. So I can trigger the sequencer directly from the morph. So again, I can have like this. And then another thing I can do is I can use this button to trigger the random voltage. So the random voltage is patched into the modulation amount. So now it's very light. And now it's a deeper modulation just by using that random voltage. And true to its analog nature, it has a nice spring reverb going on here. The cool thing that I love about having this morph here is that it really, you can set up a patch here that's not too complicated, but you have a huge amount of sound available to you. So you can, use the randomness to vary the envelope generator, or, as I'm doing here, the modulation amount. We can also patch in the another oscillator to that sound. So we've got the envelope is the nicely coded as the orange, and so you can see here I've got this unusual jumper going from the is modulating the level of the first oscillator with that envelope. I can do the same with the modulation oscillator, and we can hear what that sounds like. I'm gonna go ahead and make it something that's audible. All right, we can mess with the FM in, and you can actually mix that with the channel B here. And I'll turn that level down. We're modulating that with the envelope. And so that's kind of cool. Let's see, I can probably go ahead and turn off the delay so you can get a little bit sense of the rawer sound of this. And it really does have a very raspy tone, and it takes a lot of tweaking to sort of get it so that it's these sort of pleasing things if you're going for that angle. But that's the cool thing about the easel, is you can kind of get these sort of hypnotic, unusual tones out of it very quickly. So that's just like a really basic overview. Let me see if anybody has any questions over here in our trusty chat window. And all right, Dante is into it. All right, HR Terror, thank you for calling me out. Paul, you're talking about the Arturia Vst. So yes, the Arturia Vst is actually a really faithful reproduction of this. And again, of course, it's since I'm all about using the morph, it's easy to integrate that because you can just use it as a USB MIDI controller. The Arturia Vst is really faithful in how it, how should I describe it? How it does all the layout and has all of these, triggers. There's a couple of these things are unique to the new Easel Command, of course, patching. Some of these different things it's more based on the classic layout, but it sounds really cool. You can also get similarly unusual sounds. It, of course, is a reproduction, and it doesn't, have that same tactility and feel, but you still get absolutely wonderful sounds out of it. And because you have a computer, you can always recall them much more easily. If anybody's not familiar with the sort of what this is, so this is a thing that Buchla has had for a long time, and this is the programmed sound source. So you get a circuit board that has a bunch of leads in it that go to these different leads here, and you can create presets. So you have a big sort of like circuit board, and you can wire them up with like potentiometers and other things, or just straight leads. And then you create that circuit, and you just plug it in here, and then that sort of normalizes all of your settings here. So it's amazing that there is still a company that is, this is one of the most fascinating things about Buchla and music technology in general, is that there is a company selling a new product in 2020 that requires you to plug in a circuit board and solder it up yourself, and that's considered viable. It's marvelous. So let's see, are there any other questions about that? Because I'm going to move on. That was sort of quick. I'm going to move on to checking out the ASM Hydrasynth. Let me check my... all right. Yeah, so I saw also a question, tempted to look into a Sensel for modular. There are different ways. I'm actually going to go over that tomorrow at noon. I'll be joined by Andrew Oscillator from Expert Sleepers, and we're going to go through one of his modules, the FH2, and that allows you to host the USB output from the Morph, and then get control voltages out from your fingers and apply them to whatever you want, processes or oscillators or filters or whatever. So that is going to be a lot of fun. So that is kind of the brief overview of the music easel and the easel command. Like I said, it's pretty simple to set up, and it's pretty exciting to play with. We've got some little demo performances on a landing page that we made for our easel and Sensel Morph combination. So we've got some examples, a full tutorial on how it is all set up, and then yeah, like some little performance examples. And I've got some material that I've been working on myself with it, so I'm pretty happy about that. The Hydrosynth. Okay, so this is cool. We're going to be joined by a guest in a little bit, Alan Morgan of Sonal System. He's a sound designer, and he's been working with this a lot, and he's been working with the Morph a lot, and so I'm going to ask him some sound design tips. But I kind of first wanted to show off some of the possibilities with this. So let me kind of reorient my camera over this way so you can see it in a little bit more glory and see what I'm doing on the Morph over there. So you can see I have a non-traditional layout here. This was made with our overlay designer. And it's just a printed piece of inkjet paper. And it goes behind what's called our innovators overlay. I can actually use the bare Morph if I wanted to, but in this case, I'm using the innovators overlay to give me a little tactility. So the cool thing is I can create this arrangement and flash it to the Morph, and then that is the control surface I have. And let me go ahead and find a... so I did a couple presets last night, and I actually did a test live stream that goes in to all the details about how to set this up for MPE. Oh wait, did I say MPE? So MPE is MIDI polyphonic expression, and what it does is it sends a unique, it sends each note control on a channel. And that gives you 3 dimensions of control over every note in your chord or your arpeggiation or whatever. So you can see how I move my finger on this pad and it's going to change the timbre. As I push down on it, that's going to change the sound. And so let's take a listen. So I really could do that all day, but because I'm limited on time here, I won't do it. Again, it's just because you have all of these dimensions instead of just a key press, even just velocity. Like even down here, we can take a listen to what this is like. And this is super cool because it has aftertouch. But when you get that XYZ, you suddenly open up this whole world of timbre. And then I can bring each note into a different sort of timbre space. Let's turn on the arpeggiator. And so that's just 3 notes, but I have all this control just by how I sort of massage the sound. It's pretty easy to set up on the Hydrosynth if anybody out there has one of these things and is curious about working with MPE. It's pretty easy to do. Basically you set up the sort of system setup, and you find on the right page, so there's a system setup button here, and then you just sort of page down until you find the MPE on, which is right here on 8, and you can use your encoder to turn it off or on. Once you turn it on, then it's going to listen to every channel coming in and adjust each note on each channel. So I'm sending pitch bend information, CC74, and then channel aftertouch on each channel. So this is channel 2, channel 3, channel 4. And so that sets it up to actually respond to it. Then when you want to add that to a patch, you use the mod matrix. And the mod matrix is, sort of your patch bay for this computer here, as I like to call it. And in the patch bay, once you go into the mod matrix, we can page down and we can see how I've applied MPE. So it's you select a source and then you find MPE X in this case, and that's being applied to the mutant 1 ratio. And it's also being applied to pitch bend, which cannot stop right now. I would like to at some point. And then MPE Y, which is the up and down. You can do it on an absolute or relative basis. So absolute, it's always, so this is controlling the wave scan parameter. So when I'm down at the bottom of the key, it's always going to be at a low value for the wave scan. And it's kind of like a wave table in that regards. If I put it in relative, it's always going to be sort of in the middle, and then how I adjust on the pad is going to determine where I move through that parameter. And then aftertouch is set to filter 1 cutoff. So we hear that brightness as I push down. You can kind of see it's a pretty light touch when I want to trigger a note, and then I can get some shiatsu massage going on there and coax out some lovely timbres. So it's pretty simple. You have all of these different things that you can do to all these different parameters, and you can map a lot of them. There's a lot of pages of in this matrix. I guess there's 30. You can have 32 source destination pairings. So that's quite a big patch bay. Some interesting things about the ASM, about the Hydrosynth. My guest seems to be about to connect here. Okay, cool. Let's see if he's coming in. Yes. I'm going to admit him, and then he will be small. All right. He's connecting to audio. All right. So one of the cool things about this, hey, what's happening? I'm doing all right, Alan. Where's your video? All right. Oh, there we go. All right. So I'm going to put this in gallery view maybe. There we go. And you are in your studio in what city? Nashville. So not the synth capital of the world. All right. Well, welcome. So I wanted to introduce you to our 38 current members on our YouTube stream. Alan Morgan is a sound designer. He does a lot of preset packs and sound designs. You probably have some of his sound designs on your hard drive. He's done a lot for PreSonus. You've worked with Cubase. So you've done a lot of content for them, and then you also have at sonalsystem.com your own presets and content. I got to know Alan because he started asking lots of questions about the morph. So I like it when people ask interesting questions. I can't help but answer them. So you know, he kept asking these questions, and then he was like, "Oh, I'm trying to do this," and I'm like, "Wow, that's really cool." So we've been texting and getting to know each other a lot over the past year or so, and so during this pandemic, you've been holed up doing a lot of sound design. You got yourself a Hydrosynth recently, and you've been working. Yeah, I all of this stuff on my desktop is a loner, and so one of these, this is all gonna have to go back in a month or so. So yeah, well, hey, you know, you're working, man. That's good. He's been working with the Morph as sort of his go-to MPE controller for designing sounds for MPE. So I wanted to bring you on and talk about MPE and sort of what you were doing for sound design before, and you know, how you sort of changed this, you know, how you're able to use it to be able to change how you think about making presets and, you know, working with these things. Yeah. All right. Yeah, hang on a second. Looks like we're not getting audio from you. So let me double check my connection here. So let's see. There we go. Now speak.
Hello.
Oh, okay. Zoom has now completely lost. Or can you speak?
Yeah.
Do you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay.
Check.
Let me double check my
How's
meter. Hang on one second. All right, do your check again.
Okay. Check. Hello.
All right, cool.
The beauty of live.
Yeah, I know. All right, so now everybody's been hearing my end of the conversation and not hearing yours. Okay, so let's kind of start again. Everyone heard my intro of you, so what is it about you that's interesting? You're out there in Nashville, the synthesizer freak in a world of guitars and picking. So
we were in LA for years. I've done a ton of stuff for like you mentioned before, for a variety of different companies. I would say mostly Cubase since about version 6. Every core content library since version 6, and as far as MPE is concerned, it opened up a whole new world for me. I mean, it just seemed like this like black magic, that's like this mystical thing that I didn't understand. I wanted to know more about. I would read about it. I didn't know what it was and everything. And I tried a variety of different controllers, the MPE controllers, but I ended up on the Morph because it just seemed, it was the most playable to me. It was it felt right to me. It was easy to configure, easy to set up. And I really, really love the fact that you can use what you guys call the designer overlay, I believe.
Yeah.
So I can pretty much set up my own controls, really, which is fascinating. So I'm not confined to the keys. I'm not confined to a certain overlay. I can make my own. Yeah. And that has been that has made all the difference for me.
Really, so you've been doing a lot of like software synthesis and working with MPE. So do you tend to do, like, one of the things that I find is like, you know, like as I was playing this earlier, I just kind of want to, I'm playing some now in case you can't hear it. Yeah. I just kind of want to sit on it and, you know, like designing. So, I mean, you definitely do a lot of sort of like cinematic pads and stuff in general.
I do.
Do you kind of feel like, how do you know where the preset to stop? Because it's like when you play it, you kind of move through all of these different timbres. Where do you?
I never know when to stop. Because, like I said, MPE is just, it's opened up a whole new world. It's so unbelievably expressive. That's the hardest part, I would say, actually. Now that you bring it up, I never thought about that. And not because we have a million undo buttons, but really because it's like you can go as far as you want to go with it. And to me, it's all about feel. You know when it's, as far as designing a preset or a sound, it's when it feels right. Without sounding cliche or cheesy. I mean, that's really, when it does what I wanted it to do, I stop.
Yeah.
For a minute, but then I go back.
And then you go back. No, because it's like,
and then I screw it up.
one of the things that I've been trying to like challenge myself with is like the percussive sounds, and I love like in the Hydrosynth being able to just like turn on the arpeggiator and kind of give things a rhythmic feel, and then like I'm out of the pad world, and I'm kind of like, okay, I have more breadth than just being this like pad monster.
Yeah.
And because like MPE, like I feel like sometimes it just, everything turns into that. And so like when I turn on the arpeggiator, and then it gives me the opportunity to sort of like manipulate each piece of the rhythm. Like, I don't know, that's, to me, has been something that's been interesting. And like, what do you do about like sort of breaking out of that sort of pad range, or is that just your thing?
No, not at all. I sent you some, I got to figure out how we can share this with whoever's watching or whoever wants them.
Oh, right.
But there's some arpeggiated patterns here that I sent you as far as presets that I've been designing for the Hydrosynth.
Right.
That are, I guess you could call them generative patches, in which they do their own thing. But I've put in MPE controls into it to do, obvious things like filter sweeps, but also to alter pitches, aside from the normal pitch bend stuff, alter LFOs, just to make the sound a bit more interesting.
So what do you?
But I know what you mean.
Yeah.
Do
you know one of the names of them? Because I have your presets loaded here. Is it Emergent? No. Hell's Bells, maybe. Oh, I know one way to figure it out. Ooh, Bad Tape. Let's hear that one.
You know what the hardest part of all this is, Peter, is to name the presets. I'll be honest with
you. Yeah, it's like having to come up with album names, except you have.
Exactly.
Except you have 300 of them.
Albums.
Let's see. Okinawa Daydream, maybe?
Yes. I think that's the one.
I feel like I'm cheating. Because I could just do this for half an hour and then edit it and release it.
Right? I'm looking at the patch right now. The Okinawa Daydream does have some of the MPE controllers assigned.
Oh, That's awesome. So, all right, cool. We've got a question.
There's a randomness. I'm looking at this particular patch right now. There's a random setting here on the arpeggiator that you can assign, which basically gives you infinite possibilities.
Is that in the mod matrix?
I'm looking at the mod matrix right now.
Or is that voice?
Yeah.
Got the warm mode on. All right, cool. Yeah, and I've got the latch here, so it just goes on forever. Yeah, it is just like, the other thing about MPE is like, it is like I said, it's sort of like cheating, you know, like, because you suddenly, like, you have all these controls and you're like, oh, what is this fascinating piece of sonic clay?
Yeah.
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 So I got a question from...
At this point for us, I mean, as far as a business perspective for Sonal system,
yeah.
The guys that I have making presets for me, the 5 guys that I have working on presets and sound design work for me, we exclusively on purpose look at what VSTs or hardware synths are MPE capable. Yeah. I feel like everything has already been done, and I hate to say it, but it's boring.
Yeah.
It's monotonous.
Yeah.
But MPE, again, to reiterate, it's just opened up a whole new world. Yeah. And it's really limitless. So I specifically seek out VSTs and hardware synths that are MPE capable to design for.
So there's a question here from Paul. He said, how can I record MPE MIDI? You've been using Cubase a lot. Is that your primary DAW, or using...
I admittedly, I cheat. I jump around.
I do.
I go back. I use all of them,
yeah.
To be honest with you. Right now, I'm like hot on Logic for some reason. But for me, the one that has... I hate to single one out, but the easiest one for me that I've, in my experience, as far as MPE is concerned, has been Bitwig.
Right.
So it just seems like it's just baked in. It just works perfectly fine. I can see it. The automation lanes are all there. I can edit things exactly how I want them to be. There's no drama. There's no headache. It just works.
Yeah. So like I'm switching over a desktop view here, and I'll just record a clip and show folks here what that looks like. And so I'll double click on that clip. And for those of you watching at home, you can see already there's like this big wavy line over the note, and that's the pitch bend. So if you want to modify that, you click on the tuning fork, and then you can modify your pitch bend data there. And so you have automation lanes within the clip, and then you can do that in arrangement view too. And then also if you want to change your pressure, you can see my pressure values there laid out, and they all have handles. So again, you can manipulate those, and same with the timbre for the Y and Z. So they kind of all have some sort of, all the DAWs have that in some different way. And like you said, I think Bitwig kind of knocks it out of the park. Cubase, I think the Cubase is really powerful, but it's like got so much stuff in it. Like it's hard to get to that stuff quickly, you know. But if you're doing film work, it's probably the go-to if you want to use.
I would say Cubase is my first choice if I had to, if I was forced to admit.
Yeah. And
but when I'm heavy into modular stuff, again with MPE stuff, and I'll show you that in a second. My little setup here.
Yeah.
But Bitwig's just easy, like you're saying. It really is, you know, to be able to throw a modulator in there. I spent the morning, I will say, in the grid, for instance, in the new Bitwig 3.3 in the beta. Mm-hmm. And the implementation of the MPE and the controllers and the options with the expressions modulator, it's phenomenal. It's easy. It's
so
simple.
I'm going to switch over to my desktop again and kind of give people like sort of an example of that. So in that Buchla, I had a delay going for a little while, so that's sort of the dry. And then when I bring in the delay, the delay is like, wait, that's not just like a standard delay. Well, the cool thing about this is that it has this feedback effects. So you can drop any effect into the feedback chain of the delay. So then you go there, and I've got a ladder, just a ladder filter that is, you know, fairly resonant. Can't be too resonant because if I get it too peaky, it's gonna really ring out on us.
Here you go.
Yeah, but then, so now it's just like almost this resonant reverb just from a simple like stereo delay.
Yeah.
And you can just stack stuff up doing that. Let me switch my camera here. So yeah, that's one of the things that's really impressed me about Bitwig is you can just sort of like modulate and throw things in, and suddenly you have like this whole new thing. And
it's very easy to get lost in it, but it's very easy to create something that's spectacular very quickly.
Yeah, and I miss that because like I was playing with the reverb on the Hydrosynth, and I always like my reverbs to be a lot darker, and it's so easy to do that in Bitwig because you can just drop a filter into the tank or into the wet effects, and then it just, okay, I'm just gonna have a regular old, you know, low pass filter in there, and I'm like, this thing's too bright.
Yeah.
So.
The ASM Hydrasynth though is phenomenal. The mod matrix in the Hydrosynth is impressive.
Yeah, there's like, you know, I was showing that a little bit earlier, and there's like 32 different points. It's like, you know, having a big patch bay. I think, you know, probably some of the things that you were saying, your friend bought one and he hates it because it's too clean sounding, but.
Yeah. Well, I'll be honest, full disclosure, I flat out bought mine. No one gave me a discount on anything on my Hydrosynth. So yeah. My first experience with the Hydrosynth was at KnobCon, and it was very quick and it was very dismissive. I listened to it, I'm like, no way, this is too harsh, it's too brittle, I'm not into it. But then I you know, was reading the blogs and stuff, and I saw that a lot of people were saying kind of the same thing. And then I saw that they introduced this, whatever they call it, with analog mode or something that you can turn on, this warm mode. Yeah. And then I started listening to more and more demos, and then I was like, I should check this out.
But yeah, I mean,
so
but it is funny.
I checked it out, and it's like, but after I sat with it for a while, and I got into it, and I started making my own sounds, my own presets, and even the sound library that it does ship with, it sounds awesome. Yeah. And it is warm. You just have to make it warm. It is. The fact that you have three oscillators on it, you can control the mix. I mean, whatever you want to do with it, you can get it there if you want.
The cool thing about this is
it's not that hard to get there.
It's kind of a wavetable synth. It's kind of a, you know, wave distortion synth. Yes. Because with these oscillators, you have on the first two at least, you have these mutant distortion things, and those can be hooked into MPE. So that's what I'm doing on these patches. Where
for me, I'm glad you mentioned that, because for me that's what made the difference. With what they call the mutants. Yes. Those insert points where you can insert modulation and basically do whatever you want with it. Makes a huge difference.
But just to compare some sounds here, here's the. I'm gonna go ahead and turn my effects off. You know, everything's happening instantly on that, and then I go over to the Buchla, and it's just this big. You know, big blast of unsynchronized frequency modulation. You know. Yeah, but I love it. Yeah, it's so. That's just. And it's just like, I love it too, but it is funny because it's just like, if you ever really want to compare, you know, the sort of extremes of analog and digital, it's. Yeah. But that's almost not fair. Not fair at all. No, it's not. Yeah. But yeah, one of the things that
I'm going to try to turn the camera around here. So you can see
so let's take a look at
I have my.
Yeah, so we've got about 10 more minutes here. So let's take a look at your modular setup.
I have my morphs set up.
Oh, okay. Just tossed around. Oh, okay. Wow, that's slick. Wow.
So I have two morphs, which I love. Excuse the dizziness. Just close your eyes so you don't throw up.
That's all right. I'll give some soundtrack here.
It was driving me crazy to only have one morph. So I went on this exploratory journey, if you will, to find out how I can have two morphs at the same time. And that's when after certain conversations with you and with ASM and with Kenton, I found that I could connect two of them together. In which case, I actually believe I could do three if I wanted to.
Are they both running into? They're both running.
I have them both. I have them both running into a Kenton MIDI USB host. Right now, through a little hub.
Oh, okay, and then that goes directly into the Hydrosynth?
Exactly. There's one MIDI out, a DIN MIDI, not USB, straight into the Hydrosynth. So I have both of them.
Okay.
Turn it up.
We have sort of a glassy, compressed noise coming through. All right. Destin LeBlanc says, 2 morphs, mind equals blown.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
I mean, it really is. So it's spectacular.
Yeah. And so anybody who's...
Go ahead, sorry.
I was going to say, people who are still watching, like, if they want their mind blown, they should check out Tim Thompson. Shout out to Tim Thompson, who's on this chat, or was. He... Go check out our artist profile of Tim. He's on our artist page at sensel.com/artist.
Oh, very cool.
And he has 4 morphs that are blank. You know, it's just the raw surface. And then he's using our API and just doing really fantastic. He's made an audio-visual instrument out of it. And it's... So, Destin, if you want your mind blown, definitely check out Tim's work.
I mean, it really is amazing that you can just use this there. You know?
Yeah.
So, anyways, I'm in love with this device.
Oh, Tim says hi. All right, he's still in. All right, cool. So where's your modular setup? Let's take a look at that.
I have it over here. Let me give you a little mini tour.
Okay.
So I'm a little embarrassed. It's like the NAMM show in here. So this is part of the... I went on a little vintage kick earlier this year, and I started buying up like what they consider the holy trinity of 80 synths.
Oh, goodness.
The DX7, the D50, and the Korg.
Wow.
M1. So this is my little modular.
Okay.
Baby. So I'm using right now the Poly 2. I don't know if you can see this.
Yeah, the Poly and Poly 2. Yeah.
The Poly 2 is working great.
And that, so for people who are watching, that is a USB host, and you can take controller information and turn it into voltage. And you can also take MIDI from your computer and turn it into voltage.
That's how I'm using it right now, Peter. I'm glad you mentioned that, because what I did was I did the MPE setup on the Poly 2, but I further customized it by assigning and allowing the CV1 through 12 to be able to be sent out from Bitwig. So I have the MPE capability, of course, running great, but then I also can send the control voltages from Bitwig through the host interface here.
Yes.
So, and it works great. So you can basically use the morph and a host, which in my case is Bitwig, at the same time.
So so is a lot of that stuff, is your modular mostly driven by like interaction with keyboards and morph and the computer, or are you doing a lot of sequencing on the modular itself?
It's completely integrated with the computer, which is 100%. That was 100% the most important thing to me with modular. Yeah. My first steps into modular. Let me turn the camera around.
I guess because your life is repeatability, right?
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. So it was. I needed to be able to instantly recall, and make changes, make edits, whatever, based on what I was doing. So for me, the integration with the computer was key. Yeah. And that's where again, Bitwig has been incredible. Yeah. In my experience. Cool. So. All right. Well, our time is coming to a close here,
And so I very much appreciate you coming in at the last minute. I thought it would make it a little bit
Of course.
more
Thank you for
engaging.
asking me to join you.
Yeah, I wanted to get the pros' opinion, give people little demos of some of the stuff we've got here. And so, yeah, that worked out great.
Perfect. Peter,
All
have
right.
a great night. Success on Synthbooth, and thank you everyone for joining.
All right. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks, Peter.
All right, take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye. All right, so I'm going to take some time and look here. Does anybody... thank you, Sensel, for putting that up. Let's see. Oh, if anybody wants to ask any questions or send some queries or anything like that, I'll be here for a couple more minutes, but I'm going to wrap up this tomorrow at noon. We're going to be streaming with, and I'm going to bring in Andrew Oscillator from Expert Sleepers, and we're going to go through Modular. So I can actually, let me go to my camera view here, and let's go over here. We can take a look at what's coming tomorrow. So I have some small modular setups over here. Let me see, make sure my camera is pointed not at the trash on the floor, but the actual modules. And so we've got a couple things. We've got the MantaMate here, which is another thing that you can host USB. I'm going to make it blank. Oh, that's cool. And then over here we've got a couple, in these two boxes, we have the Expert Sleepers FH2, and that's mostly what we're going to go over tomorrow and talk about some of the interesting things you can do with that besides, I mean, MPE is one really wonderful example, but there is also the opportunity to do some control of like arpeggiations and rhythms and Euclidean rhythms and spit out all sorts of voltage from the Expert Sleepers and control them with CCs coming from the Morph. So that should be pretty fun, and we'll definitely have the Expert Sleepers expert with us. So thanks so much for joining, and look forward to catching some of you on chats in the rest of Synthbooth, and seeing you tomorrow at our next live stream. And that's at noon Pacific. All right, take care.